Did you know there are 7 things that you can learn by taking a marketing survey? I really believe that library marketers should be taking surveys from brands and companies because you can learn a lot about how to survey. I'm going to share some tips with you and why I think it's really important to take those surveys in this episode of the Library Marketing Show. Hi, everyone. I'm Angela Hursh. I have a blog. It's called Super Library Marketing. Hey, everybody, I need Kudos nominations. So head on over to that website, and then I want you to look for the Library Marketing Show tab. If you click on that, you can fill out a form and nominate your library or someone else's library for our Kudos, which goes for fun or interesting or just plain old great marketing for libraries. We're going to start today with Kudos, and Kudos today is going to the Brevard County Library System in Florida. This is remarkable. They got a huge write-up in Florida today because they have opened something called the River House, which is a smaller, more intimate space for community engagement. It offers programs that combat loneliness and foster connections with things like book clubs, fiber arts groups, and stuff like that. It is free to the public, of course, because it's hosted by the library. There are going to be things there for a wide range of ages and interests. And I read this. I actually got a Google alert about it. And so a fantastic write-up and just awesome coverage for the Brevard County Library System. So good job. Let's get into today's topic, which is why you should be taking more surveys and what you can learn from them. I take surveys often. Usually they're customer feedback surveys from companies that I do business with, but sometimes they're just surveys I come across on the internet. Sometimes they are surveys from libraries. I don't take those, but I look at the questions and I look at the survey because I have 7 things that I'm interested in finding out. So here are my 7 things you can learn from taking surveys. Number 1 is how they frame their questions. In particular, look at whether the questions are going to elicit clear responses. And if you find a question on a survey that you think is great that you'd like to copy or imitate, what I do is just copy it and put it in a document, usually Google Doc, for later, just to save it so that I have it when it's time to make a survey. The second thing you can learn is the type of questions that the company or library, whoever is asking. Are they doing a mix of like multiple choice or ranking scales or open-ended questions? And kind of as a person who's taking the survey, gauge how engaged you are and how, like, where do you get tired in the survey? That's usually an indicator of how long the survey should be, and maybe the survey you're taking is too long. So you can learn all of those things from taking other surveys. Speaking of that, number 3 is the length and flow of the survey. How did they decide to order their questions? And how do they maintain engagement without overwhelming you? Sometimes the answer to that is going to be they don't. And you can learn from that. Don't do that thing that you don't like in a survey that other companies are doing. Number 4 also has to do with questions. Sometimes you will see that surveys include questions that are leading or show a little bit of bias. When you see that, again, make note of it and maybe copy it into your Google Doc. And don't do that when you create your survey. It just is kind of a good exercise for looking to see the mistakes that other companies make and that you can learn from. Number 5 is a little interesting, and not every survey will do this for you, but you might be able to tell from the survey what the trends and topics are. This is particularly a thing that happens when you take a marketing survey. So if you're taking a survey from a social media platform or site, like a blog that you like, or I often take surveys from Marketing Profs or Content Marketing Institute, and I can kind of tell what they're thinking about, what the trends are going to be for the next year, and what they're thinking about in terms of content. For example, about 2 years ago, they started asking questions about AI. That was a big clue that AI was going to be a big part of the content that they were going to turn out. So you can kind of learn some things from the questions about trends and topics. Number 6, along that same line, pain points and priorities. So for these companies, Can you tell what their strategy is or what their next thought is for their next advertising campaign? Or are they looking for your pain points as a customer? You can learn from all of those questions and translate that into your library survey. What priorities does your library have, and what questions do you need to ask of your community of readers in order to make sure you can fulfill those priorities? And finally, this is something that actually you can learn after the survey. If the survey has a thing at the end that says, do you want us to email you the results? I always check that because I like to see how they present the data once they have it in. Do they use charts? Do they make an infographic? Do they do a blog or a video? I just find it fascinating, and I can learn some new things from looking at how companies present their data from surveys. And I bet you will too. So that's my pitch. Take more marketing surveys or take more customer feedback surveys and see what you can learn from them. And I'm curious, do you already take surveys? And is there something that you have learned from a survey that you have taken? I'm really interested. Let us know down in the comments and let's get a conversation started. And that's it for this episode of the Library Marketing Show. But my channel's full of other videos with tips for library marketing. If you're interested in learning more, head to this next video. I'll see you there.